My name is Rene. I was a dental office manager for 11 years until the practice got absorbed by a corporate chain out of Phoenix that came in with their own systems and their own people and handed me a severance letter in an envelope with my name spelled wrong. That was 4 months before any of this happened. I have a daughter, Zoe, who's 15 and has no idea how close we came to a real financial crisis. Every day, I sent out applications and waited. Most of the time, nothing came back. When it did, it was usually a polite rejection or an offer that paid 30% less than the job I had lost. So that's where I was, 48 years old, unemployed, increasingly worried about money, and desperate for something that felt normal. Then came the farm. Welcome to Drift Into Stories, Friday's Strange Encounter series. I'm your host, S. Buckle up, today's story is about to begin. It was a Tuesday. I had been at my kitchen table since 7 in the morning, redoing my resume for the 4th time, sending applications into what felt like a void. And by 2 in the afternoon, I was done. Mentally, completely done. I was scrolling social media the way you scroll when your brain has given up. Not looking for anything, just moving your thumb. And the ad appeared. Ridgecrest Trail Rides, 2-hour horseback experience on 40 acres of beautiful Tennessee countryside. Beginner friendly, $65 per person. Book now. I see 3 photos. A chestnut horse in a field, golden hour light, a wooded trail, a red barn with white trim, clean and bright. The comments had maybe 4 or 5 people saying things like, "Did this last summer, so relaxing, a great way to spend an afternoon." I hadn't been on a horse since I was maybe 12. I grew up doing it a bit, through a friend's family. I remembered liking it. The size of the animal, the smell of them, the way the world looks different from that height. $65 was a luxury at that point. But I was tired of feeling trapped inside my own worries. And for one afternoon, I wanted to remember what it felt like to enjoy something. I booked it for the following Saturday and didn't overthink it. The drive out was 40 minutes, the last 10 of which were on a 2-lane road with nothing on either side but fence line and field. I remember thinking it was pretty. I remember the light that morning, crisp October sunlight that made the countryside look calmer and more inviting than it probably was. The entrance was a gravel drive between 2 wooden posts with a hand-painted sign, Ridgecrest. Below that, smaller, Trail Rides, private property. I pulled in and the gravel crunched under my tires. I drove maybe a quarter mile before the main structures came into view. It looked okay, is the honest answer. Not as polished as the photos. The barn was the right barn, red with white trim. But up close, the paint was peeling along the bottom boards, and one of the fence rails on the near paddock had come loose and wasn't fixed. There were 2 horses in the paddock, a chestnut and a gray, and they looked up when I got out of the car. There was a smaller building off to the left, a tack room or utility shed, and beyond that, the main house, which was a single-story ranch home with drawn blinds and a truck parked in front of it. No one came out right away. I stood next to my car for a moment, and then he came around from behind the barn. He introduced himself as Gary. That was it, just Gary. He had a weathered face, deeply lined around the eyes and mouth, the kind of face that had spent years in the sun and wind. Nothing unusual about it at first glance. But there was something off about him. He looked like someone who spent most of his time outdoors and very little of it around other people. His eyes were pale, very light blue, and they stayed on me a beat too long when we shook hands. "Just you?" he said. "Just me." He nodded slowly, like he had just confirmed something. He took me into the barn first for what he called the orientation. The smell hit immediately. Hay and manure and horse sweat, and underneath all of that, something older, mustier, like the building had been holding moisture for years. 4 stalls, 2 of them empty. The chestnut from the paddock was inside now, cross-tied in the aisle, and she turned her head to look at me with a calm, liquid patience that horses have. Her name was Rosie. I remember that specifically. She was maybe 15 years old, he said. Steady temperament, good for beginners. She was a good horse. Whatever else I'm going to say about that day, Rosie was a good horse who had nothing to do with any of it. He handed me a liability waiver, 1 page, printed on plain copy paper, no letterhead. I've signed waivers for zip lines and paddleboard rentals, and they're always official documents with company logos and witness lines. This was plain paper with the text justified badly, like someone had typed it in a hurry. I've signed it because I had already driven 40 minutes. The helmet he handed me was old. The foam interior compressed and slightly misshapen. The buckle stiff. It fit loosely. I noticed these things. I noted them somewhere in the middle distance of my attention and didn't act on them, which I've spent a lot of time regretting since. He tacked up Rosie while I watched. Saddle pad, then the western saddle, cinched on the left side. The bridle with the snaffle bit. He did it efficiently, no wasted movement. And I thought, okay, he actually knows horses. That made me feel better. I was recalibrating the whole time, looking for reasons to relax. He showed me how to mount from the left side. Left foot in the stirrup, right leg swinging over. He didn't use a mounting block. He told me to step on the fence rail, which is not how it's done, but I managed. Then I was up, and Rosie shifted slightly beneath me to redistribute the weight. And I felt that familiar adjustment, that old physical memory of what it is to be on a horse. And then Gary put his foot in the left stirrup and swung up behind me. "She does better with a second rider," he said. "Keeps her settled. Lots of beginners. She gets a little uncertain about commands. This way, I've got the backup." He said it in the tone of someone who has said a true thing, and I want to be honest. There is a kind of trail riding where a guide accompanies a beginner closely, and I didn't have enough experience to know immediately whether this was plausible or not. Later, I looked it up. It's not standard practice. It's not something reputable operations do. But I was on a horse, and he was already settled in behind me, and Rosie was already walking forward. And the moment for objection had passed in the way those moments pass when you're slightly off balance and uncertain. His chest was against my back. That's just geometry. 2 people on 1 horse. But his hands came to my hips within the first few minutes, and he said it was for stability, to keep me from leaning wrong, and his thumbs pressed in slightly. And I sat rigid and stared at Rosie's ears and told myself it was fine. "You lived around here?" he asked. We were moving at a walk toward the tree line at the far edge of the field. "About 40 minutes. "By yourself?" I paused. "With my daughter." "Husband?" "Doesn't matter," I said. He made a sound that wasn't quite a laugh, more like an acknowledgement. We kept walking. The trail went into the trees and the light changed, filtered, cooler, the sound of the field dropping away behind us. The trees were dense enough that I couldn't see the barn anymore after maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I couldn't see my car. I could see about 30 feet of trail ahead and nothing on either side. He leaned forward at one point to point out something he said was a deer path, and his mouth was very close to my ear, and I felt his breath, and my whole body went still the way a body does when it is deciding whether to respond to something as a threat. I kept my voice level. I asked how much further to the turnaround point. He said, "Oh, we've got time." We came out of the trees eventually. I breathed. Rosie walked us back toward the barn, and I was already rehearsing the exit. Thank him, walk to my car, drive home. Simple, done. He dismounted first and reached up to help me down in a way that was technically helpful, and also kept his hands on my waist longer than dismount required. I stepped back. "That was great," I said. "Thank you." "Want to see the property?" he said. "I got some interesting things out back. People always want to see it." I should have said no, I know that. But the word no can feel like an aggressive gesture when you're standing in a strange place with a strange man and you're trying very hard not to signal the fear you've already started to feel. Because you don't know yet if the fear is justified or if you're just being paranoid. Sure, I said. That was a terrible mistake. He walked me around the right side of the barn, past the paddock, through a gate that he held open, then along the back of the property. The house was behind us now and getting smaller. There was a vegetable garden that had been let go for the season. Beds of dead stalks. A chicken coop, empty, the wire rusting. He talked the whole time about the property, 42 acres, he said. He knew every inch. About the water table, the soil quality, the deer population. He spoke about the land the way some people speak about something they're deeply attached to. And it would have been interesting if I hadn't been keeping track of the distance between myself and my car with every step. The building was at the back of the property, maybe 300 feet from the house. It looked like a converted workshop. Concrete block walls, a corrugated metal roof, a heavy wooden door with a padlock that was currently open and hanging loose in the hasp. He pushed the door open. "Come look," he said. I stopped just inside the doorway. Inside, dim light from a single bare bulb on a cord. An old workbench along the left wall with tools hung above it. A shop vac in the corner. A riding mower, old, with flat tires. And in the center of the concrete floor, a metal hatch, roughly 3 feet by 4. With a recessed handle and a rubber gasket around the seam. He walked to it and crouched down and pulled it open. The sound it made was heavy, solid. He looked up at me with an expression I'm going to try to describe accurately, because I've tried to describe it to a lot of people since. He wasn't threatening. That was the thing that made it so wrong. He looked proud, the way a person looks when they're about to show you something they've built with their own hands and they want your reaction. "Come look," he said again. I walked to the edge. I looked down. A wooden ladder, maybe 12 feet down to a concrete floor. Bare bulb down there too. Warm yellow light. I could see the edge of a metal shelving unit along the one wall. Canned food stacked in neat rows. A cot with a sleeping bag. Coiled water hose. The smell coming up from it was damp concrete and something sealed and still and underground. "Runs about 50 feet, he said. He was looking at the hatch, not at me. "Reinforced concrete walls, 4 inches. Got a chemical toilet at the far end. Generator hookup and hand pump down to the well. Man could live down there 6 months comfortable, maybe more." He let the silence sit. "Ladies first," he said. And there it was. It's hard to describe what happens in the moment you realize your fear was right all along. Not because you're surprised. In a strange way, you're not. Some part of you has already been putting the pieces together. The fear comes from knowing you have to run now. "I'm actually good," I said. My voice stayed level. Inside, everything else was screaming. I stepped back from the hatch. I turned toward the door. "You didn't even get a real look," he said behind me. "I have to be somewhere," I said. I was through the door, outside. The open air felt enormous. I started walking toward the house, toward the gate, toward my car. Not running. Running felt dangerous. Running would tell him I was scared. And some instinct I couldn't explain was convinced that the moment he knew that, the situation would get worse. He came out of the building behind me. I could hear him, his footsteps on the dry grass, unhurried at first, then adjusting to match mine. "Hold on," he said. "I'll walk you back." He pulled even with me. I kept my eyes forward on the gate. It was still maybe 100 or 50 feet away. "What's the rush?" he said. And something had changed in his voice. The warmth, the pride, the tour guide enthusiasm. It was gone. What replaced it was a quiet patience that reminded me of the way a cat watches a mouse it doesn't think can get away. I didn't answer. I put my hand in my jacket pocket where my keys were. My car key threaded between my fingers the way my mother taught me when I was in college, and I kept walking. He stepped in front of me. Not dramatically, he just got ahead of me, just slightly, and turned, and was standing between me and the gate with his hands at his sides and that pale-eyed face pointed at me. "You haven't seen everything yet," he said. "I need to leave," I said. "Please move." He looked at me for a long moment. I looked back. I didn't look away. I have no idea where that bravery came from. Then he reached out and grabbed my wrist. The grip was stronger than I expected. For a split second, I just stared at it, my brain struggling to catch up to what had happened. Then, instinct took over. I twisted hard, pulling down and away against his thumb, the weak point of any grip. His fingers slipped. Suddenly, I was free. I moved around him and headed for the gate. Behind me, I heard him say, Hey, stop." His voice sounded closer than I wanted to. The gate was still ahead of me. I reached it, grabbed it with both hands, and shoved. It swung outward so hard the hinges groaned. I slipped through the opening and heard the gate slam into something behind me. Maybe him. I didn't look back to find out. The car was maybe 80 feet away across the gravel. I moved as fast as I could without breaking into a run. The keys were already in my hand. I got the door open, slid inside, and locked it before I even had the chance to breathe. When I looked up, he was standing at the gate. He wasn't coming after me. He was just watching. That was what stayed with me afterward. Not the tunnel, not even his hand on my wrist. The way he stood there, calm and patient, like a man watching an opportunity disappear, rather than a man who had just lost control of a situation. I started the car. He didn't move. I had to drive close to him to get back to the gravel road, and he stepped aside, unhurried, and watched me go. I drove back to the main road before I pulled over, and sat there with my hands shaking on the wheel, and my heart doing something I don't have a word for, not racing, more like stuttering. I sat there for a while, then I drove home. I didn't tell anyone that night, not even Zoe. I made dinner and helped her with something for school, and went to bed and lay in the dark going back through it, looking for a moment I should have left. The next morning, I looked up Ridgecrest Trail Rides. The Facebook page came up right away. Same name, same photos in the ad I had clicked, same description. And there, in the About Us section, was a photo of the owner. I stared at it for a long time. It was not Gary. The man in the photo was larger, younger by maybe 15 years, with dark hair and a wide smile. The name under the photo, Cody Ferris. A string of good reviews going back 4 years. Cody is wonderful, so patient with beginners. The horses are well cared for. Best afternoon I've had in a long time. I stared at the screen and wondered who exactly had taken me out on that trail. Maybe Cody Ferris went somewhere. Family emergency, seasonal work, anywhere, and left a relative or a friend in charge. And that person is Gary, who took the opportunity to run the business and is just strange and lives alone, and built a bunker and has poor boundaries, and I was never in real danger. Maybe. Or maybe the farm was exactly what it appeared to be, a real business run by real people with real customers. Maybe Gary belonged there, because if he belonged there, then he wasn't pretending to be anyone at all. I don't know. That's the part I need you to understand. I don't know who Gary really was. I don't know why he built that tunnel. I don't know what he intended to do with it. I honestly don't know. What I know is what I felt standing at the edge of that hatch, looking down. And what I know is that I made it back to my car in one piece. I filed a report with the county sheriff's office. I gave them the address, the description, the name Gary, the discrepancy with the online listing. They said they'd look into it. I don't know what that means or whether they did. I never drove back to find out. There's a thing that happens when you're in a hard stretch of life. Job gone, money tight, running on empty, where your edge goes soft, not your intelligence, your guard, the part of you that would normally trust the small signals, the loose waiver, the helmet that doesn't fit, the question about whether you're alone. You override those signals because you need the afternoon to go well, because $65 of normal sounds like exactly what you need. I'm not telling you never to go anywhere alone. I'm not telling you the world is full of people like Gary. But I am telling you this. When something feels wrong, pay attention. Not the dramatic moments, the small ones, the comment that sits badly with you, the question that feels a little too personal, the explanation that doesn't quite make sense, the feeling you keep talking yourself out of. Those things matter. Your instincts notice problems long before your mind is willing to accept them. Trust them and stay safe out there.